Oh, howdy all, grab yourself a drink. It is time for some Path of Exile 1 and 2 discussion. That's right, this video is about both games, but it is primarily about Path of Exile 2. Those of you that are regular channel viewers might have picked that up from the thumbnail setup, where I had that little yellow glow around the outside. I tend to put a bright color around the outside if it's Path of Exile 2 related, and if it's Path of Exile 1 related, I don't do that. If you didn't know that already, well, now you do. Today, Grinding Gear Games announced Exilecon 2026. This is a major convention that they have run twice before. It's not an annual event. This is something that they only do when they've got a major announcement to make. The first Exilecon was where they announced that what the community thought was going to be Path of Exile 1's 4.0 expansion was actually their major secret project, Path of Exile 2. Now, Path of Exile 2 has been through a lot of iterations since then. It's not the same thing that was originally announced back in the first Exilecon, but you can definitely see a few things from the original design that made it through intact. And that second Exilecon is where they gave us a lot more information on what was coming with Path of Exile 2, and also went through the early access system that is currently in place. Well, it stands to reason that Exilecon 2026 is probably going to announce the full release of Path of Exile 2. This is speculation, but I think it's pretty informed speculation for a couple of reasons. Firstly, Grinding Gear Games have done something a little bit unusual with their write-up on Exilecon, and that is that they are hosting it on the Path of Exile 2 website. The Path of Exile 2 website is tremendously underused. It's something that they don't really take very seriously normally, and that is a big change to put a major announcement there that is for both games. In the past, announcements that applied to both games were almost always on the Path of Exile 1 site. So that's the first piece of information. The second piece of information is just the current status of release, and also some of the things Jonathan has said over the last year or so about what the bar is, what needs to be in order for Path of Exile 2 to go into full release. So the original vision that was announced was that Path of Exile 2's full release would see 12 classes, 36 ascendancies, 6 acts. That was the original vision. That has been walked back since, and they've said they need to have most of the classes, but it's okay if a couple are missing. Most of the ascendancies, it's okay if a few more are missing. And they do need to have 6 acts. They need to have a working endgame, and they need to have a few other key design systems working really well. So that's what they need in order to get it released. So it really does look like they're aiming to exit early access and go into full release with the December release this year. If you'd asked me even a day ago what day I thought was the most likely for the full release of Path of Exile 2, I would have said August. I would have said August of 2026, the release that we were currently expecting to be called 0.6.0. I would have thought that's what they're going to go for, and it's going to be a slightly smaller in scope release than what would be the case if they sat on it for another 4 months. There were a few people in the community that thought maybe it would be this April release, the one that we're expecting to be called 0.5.0, and there were a lot of people also that thought it would either be December or that would be pushed back to 2027. Well, if it was going to be in 2027, Exilecon 2026 wouldn't be happening. It would be Exilecon 2027 because that would be where they were kicking off the marketing for it. If it was going to be 0.5.0 or 0.6.0, I don't think they would be running Exilecon this year either. I think the fact that they're running Exilecon 2026 makes it much more likely that they are going for that December release window. It is also the time that people have the most time to play games as well, and they're probably hoping that that ends up working in their favor more than some of the drawbacks to a December release. First drawback of a December release is that there's less time to work on things before Christmas silliness comes around, and the second drawback to a December release is that everyone else is doing one as well. All those pros and cons taken into account, it definitely looks like Grinding Gear Games are at least trying really hard to hit December with Path of Exile 2's full release. And honestly, that is probably the biggest piece of news that's come out with the Exilecon announcement. Other than that though, I think it's worth having a look at the rest of the announcement that they've made here. They've got the times that the event's going to be on. So Friday, November 6th is when you can pick up your badge. And Saturday and Sunday after that are the convention proper. After that, if you want to stay around in New Zealand for a little bit longer, there's some things down at the bottom of this announcement from Grinding Gear Games that will give you some ideas for tourism in the area. What's going to be happening there? There's going to be live announcements and developer talks. These were big announcements. The last two Exilecons they've run, they're probably the biggest announcements Grinding Games have ever done. The keynote will have brand new information from Jonathan Rogers and from Mark Roberts, as well as deep dives into specific game mechanics. There'll also be a whole bunch of other things that are going on. For example, there'll be exclusive demos. One of my favorites, of course, is the Exilecon card game. These are some of the cards that I wound up with from the first event that was run there. The way they've structured this is a really ingenious setup that gives you a reason to strike up conversations with people at Grinding Gear Games you haven't heard of before. So someone that works in the community team, someone that works in sound design, all these sorts of people, they're going to be walking around wearing t-shirts that have one of the bosses from the game on it, and you can present a hand of cards that defeats the boss that they've got on their shirt. Then they'll give you some of their cards. And there's a tiering system whereby the tougher the boss that you fight, the more rewards that you'll get from them. And ultimately, there's a mapping system as well. It's a really fun little game. Next, there's going to be a number of opportunities to have meet and greet sessions with streamers. Unfortunately, I'm not going to be part of that. I am not going to be able to make this Exilecon. The choice of month that it's in is one that I have had long-term commitments coming up in that month. And as a result, I am definitely not going to be able to duck over. Even though Auckland's not all that far from Melbourne, I'm not going to be able to duck over during November. It's unfortunately going to be my busiest month for this entire year, with some long-standing commitments that I'm not going to be able to weasel my way out of. So that's unfortunate for me, but there'll be plenty of other interesting people to meet there. On top of that, there's also going to be some live races that are going to be held. These are really exciting. It looks like they're running a Path of Exile 1 race one day and a Path of Exile 2 race the other day. And honestly, these are really fantastic to watch. And one shout out I will make at this point as well, if you haven't already seen it, have a look at Angormus's run from Games Done Quick recently, where he speedrun Acts 1, 2, 3, and 4. This run was absolutely fantastic because the commentary on it was absolutely spectacular. And potentially there'll be some really good commentary available for the race finals as well. The next most important thing to know about is the 3 different types of tickets that are going for sale. Warning, if you want an Ultra VIP ticket, make sure that you are lined up in the queue, ready right the instant they go for sale, because they will be sold out within a minute. Regular tickets, $250 American dollars. They get you entry both days. Then they also get you into the after party. And there's also going to be an MTX that you get that is only available if you do physically attend. Then there's a VIP ticket, which gives you that plus a few more things. That's triple the price. And then there is the Ultra VIP ticket, which is 8 times the price and also gives you an exclusive dinner with game directors and a few special guests on Monday after the event. The Ultra VIP tickets are extremely, extremely quick sellers. The VIP tickets will sell out fast as well. The regular tickets in the past to the previous Exilecons, they haven't sold out very fast. So set an alarm if you want a VIP or an Ultra VIP ticket. And if you want a regular ticket, you can possibly get away with not setting an alarm. Otherwise, there's a couple of other things you'll probably want to read before buying a ticket, but you do have a couple of days because tickets aren't going to sale for almost 2 weeks' time. 10th of February, that's when the tickets are going on sale. There's also information on flights and accommodation over to New Zealand and a few things that are tourism related. So you can have a look at that on their site, link down in the description below. Anyways, that's Exilecon 3. Exilecon 3 is coming. It is in November. It is almost certainly going to be the announcement of Path of Exile 2's 1.00 full release, at which point the game will cease to be in early access, but probably still will be missing a couple of key features. I expect that when 1.00 goes live, we're going to be missing 1 or 2 classes, we're going to be missing a couple of weapon types, we're going to be missing a few ascendancies. There'll be a few things still outstanding, but the game will probably be Acts 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 instead of the interlude system we've got at the moment, a cohesive storyline start to finish, and a reworked endgame that's going to be tested out really thoroughly when patch 0.5.0 comes around. Also, personal hope here, hopefully there's a slightly more stable trade league economy than there has been during 0.4.0. Anyways, I'm going to leave it there. May your Varlorbs have interesting results. I did just have a look to see if I had a Varlorb from the card game. Unfortunately, I don't showcase it. But if you do get any Varlorbs in the card game, may they have interesting results too.